the real emphasis or seeming emphasis on diversity generally. And I, among other things, I sit on the legal department's diversity committee, and I do a lot of outreach with them. And one thing that's really striking to me is just how much disability activity there is at a place that is like Microsoft. And granted, it's kind of hard because, I mean, I don't know how many other companies are out there with, you know, over 100,000 employees, and that really sort of dictates what they're doing. I started working in a law firm in part because, you know, I figured, you know, those would be the folks who could afford the accommodations I might possibly need. And, you know, not to mention the fact that I figured I'd get the money that I needed to make my own life accessible. But what's, you know, impressive to me is that there was so much emphasis on diversity in the corporate environment, and they were very eager to have me as being part of their diversity outreach. They also have someone who is whose sole job it is to be the disability inclusion manager. And yes, he does do the reasonable accommodation work, but he does a lot of other things as well. So there is some disability outreach. And you know, one of the things that really surprised me at a place like Microsoft is I go to major company events and gosh, there's a sign language interpreter. Or more often than not, you have, you know, a card service and stuff like that. And so, you know, I think there's a change. And I think also that for a lot of companies, there's a lot of talk about diversity, and there's a real opportunity, I think, for folks with disabilities to sort of insert themselves into that dialogue. And in some ways, I think, you know, sort of transforming the culture from one about, you know, accommodations and compliance to sort of, you know, being part of the diversity framework could be sort of a, you know, post-ADA transit. I mean, if we can execute on that, might be really, it might be really valuable. So anyway, that's my point.
And I have sort of a good and bad perspective on working for local government. San Francisco has had a history of affirmative action programs for people with disabilities, but only in entry-level positions. And that is just insulting. So we have been working with the Human Resources Department, and they are really excited about hiring people with disabilities at all levels of government. But that started right before the economy crashed, and Human Resources has been dealing with laying people off in city government, not hiring new people. That said, we have a real shortage of people who understand disability issues and who bring disability perspectives into the range of government activities that really need that input. Our office is so understaffed, it's incredible. I was talking with Christina because I've been asking her to go on committees to help represent things. And frankly, for those of you who have a little extra time, it would be, I encourage you to contact me and let me know what your areas of interest are, because we would probably get you started on advisory committees where you can meet some of the players in city government and they can get to know you. And then as jobs open up, or like Kathi, you can start creating jobs. I mean, the city attorney's office needs more people who understand disability rights laws. The MTA, transit, really needs help on disability rights issues. Planning, we're doing a lot of urban development in San Francisco, and a lot of places are understanding that universal design is the way to go, especially as baby boomers age, and we need to be thinking of sustainability, including not just environmental and economic sustainability, but social sustainability. There are really a lot of opportunities, and there's a huge need for a disability perspective. As a law student, you have a real advantage in that people would recognize that you're educated and sort of aware of how government functions. So I haven't come here planning to make that pitch, but I actually think that I would really like to hear from those of you who think you might want to, whether or not you want to work in city government long-term or short-term, but might have some input on the many advisory councils and commissions that the city has.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I would just add one other thing too. I think a great segue into doing that type of work is to get involved with that kind of thing during school. And obviously, I mean, just by being here, I think that, that all of you probably already are. But I just think that that's a really great way yeah, it's a stepping stone to doing that kind of work after school. And it's also just a great way to kind of to be your own advocate, you know, to sit on like